My name is Wayne Yoder, and this is me, I think.
This is me. Yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching This Is Me. I am D. Curtis, your host, joined by my co-host, Patrick Talker. Talker?
Yes, sir. Mr. Curtis, how you doing?
I'm all right. How are you? How you doing?
Well, I can't complain. And today we have an amazing, when I say amazing, I mean amazing. This fella's life is a lesson to too many people. It's just, I kind of jealous him for the way he lives and what he's seen so far in life. And I wish at some point I can be just a little bit like him. And I'm talking about the interesting Mr. Wayne Yoder. Mr. Yoder, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Just call me Wayne. I'm just common, ordinary Wayne. That's me.
Got it.
Good to be on the show. Thank you. It's a real privilege to be with you guys and to meet you, Patrick. Darling, D, you go by D now, don't you? Darling?
Yeah, D. Curtis.
Okay, D, okay. D and I have known each other for some time. Our history goes back a little bit to Virginia, so
Yeah.
but it's great to meet Patrick from Senegal, because I used to live in Nigeria for 3 years, many years ago. So Africa's in my shoes, my sandals, I should say.
Awesome.
Interesting.
All right. Africa is in his sandal. Well, we're going to get to know more about Wayne here today.
So, well, what do you be specific? Tell me what you want to know. I'm wide open. I have nothing to hide. I'm too old to hide anything anymore. So,
If I were to ask, I would say describe Wayne Yoder.
well, I'm someone who, in my life, I've been very inquisitive. I like to ask questions. I don't ever want to lose that. I think it keeps us alive. I'm curious. It's why I love to travel so much, to different cultures, meeting different people and learning languages and finding out how they think, what they believe and why. And, it's I'm someone that I guess I love the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. I try to embrace it all with some reason, and hopefully I can spread kindness and love around the world. But yeah, life to me is I have to be inquisitive. I have to ask questions, and it gets me in trouble a lot. But that's why I have my nose, because it gets me out of trouble. People start laughing, then it's okay.
That's a secret.
So that's some of what kind of how I see myself. I'm an artist. I do a lot of painting. I love the saxophone and the music to begin with. I played the tenor sax for a while.
Nice.
And did a lot of singing and so forth. And I was an athlete in university. Different things like that. Yeah, I just I love life. I love life.
How did you get? Where did the passion for art? How did it started? Where did it come from?
Okay, that's a very interesting question for me too. I'm also a retired psychotherapist. That was my actual profession for about 50 years. And my art really began in terms of painting and drawing and that kind of thing when I was around 40 years old. I went through kind of a major midlife transition at that point, and it really opened me up to a lot of things that had been suppressed and pushed away for various reasons. I was walking through a bookstore one time, and you know how sometimes books kind of fall off the shelf at you.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the books that fell off was Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. Now, to that point, I had not done any drawing in my life.
Mm.
I was 40. And I looked at that book and I saw how this teacher took her students at the beginning of her class and had them draw a self-portrait, and then 10 weeks later, draw another one. And a remarkably different, so much improvement. And I said to myself, you know, they can do that, I can do that. And so I bought the book, worked through it, and this passion began to develop. And then I went to a psychotherapy workshop one time out west, and the woman who was leading it was an older woman from New York City, was a psychiatrist and an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at something I had created there. She said, she didn't know it was mine. She said, who did this? And I said, well, I did. She said, do you paint? I said, no, I don't. She said, will you paint? I said, no. She said, do you draw? I said, well, I've drawn a couple of things. And she said, will you paint? I said, well, no. And so she kept coming back at me, will you paint? Okay.
I will paint.
I will paint. So actually I began, I went home and started mixing colors, which were very frightening to me. And things just kind of went from there. Yeah. And it wasn't, I was still in my career as a psychotherapist, so I wasn't doing the art full time. And since I've been traveling now, it's difficult to do a lot of painting while you're traveling because you got to carry these things with you. Yeah. But now I'm kind of settled here in a way as home base in Argentina with my wife, who is Argentinian. And so I have my art studio here. So now I can focus on it more. That's kind of how I got into it. In my home growing up, I can still smell some paints that my mother had.
Okay.
She did a little painting on glass with pictures underneath. That was her level. Wow. But she had an 8th grade education, and so she wasn't well educated academically, much to her chagrin. But she's self-taught pianist. You know, she played the piano and she loved to sing, and my dad loved to sing, and so there was some of this art stuff on a very minimal level going on there, and it kind of got me curious eventually. Then once things began to open up in this midlife thing, it's like, wow, I began to see colors. I began to see colors for the first time in my life. I mean, there's red and then there's red.
And there's red.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to go back a little bit to your growing up. How was it like as a teenager growing up? Education and stuff like that. Do you mind taking us back a little bit?
Sure. Let me go back to the beginning. I was born on a farm in eastern Pennsylvania, west of Philadelphia, about 50 miles. And I was born in the house, actually, in my mom and dad's bedroom, rather than a hospital. We didn't go to hospitals then. Mm-hmm. We had cattle and pigs, and we grew grain and things like that. But we, it's interesting. We were poor. We were very poor. But it didn't bother me that much because farmers around there were poor. And I asked my uncle, who worked for us for a few years. I asked him more recently. He's deceased now. I said, Cug, which was his name. I said, when you worked for us, were we poor? He laughed. He said, you were poorer than dirt. But I remember, I had two pairs of Levi's, and my mom would make us shirts out of feed bags and things like that. But it never bothered me. Everybody else was poor around there too. Yeah. So then we moved off the farm when I was an later adolescent, to Dayton, Ohio, which is a metropolitan area. And I went to a school that had all the grades in one big building, whereas in Pennsylvania, I went to one-room schools with outhouses and we had a potbelly stove to keep us warm in the wintertime, and that kind of thing. So this was a real change. So I spent my adolescence there in Ohio, continued working on farms to make some money, and played sports there because they had a good sports program that was really cool. So that was kind of, and mom and dad were always, just a note about them, they were both very loving people. They were conservatively religious. So I grew up in that kind of home. You might have heard of the Mennonite and Amish people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my background. Dad, when we moved to Ohio, Dad wanted to be a pastor, so he became a pastor there and then in Florida. So I worked there. We lived there in Ohio, and then I went, after I graduated there, I went to Eastern Mennonite University in Virginia, Harrisonburg, Virginia, and completed my years, my 4 years there for undergraduate, which was English language and literature. I always had this desire to volunteer for a while after university, but I wanted to get my education first. And I don't know what you might know about the Mennonites and Amish, but they are a people who generally like to volunteer time, like to help others who maybe don't have the opportunity. So when I knew I wanted to go to Africa. I didn't know why. I just was intrigued by this big continent, mysterious,
Yeah.
And I had heard people who had come back from being there either in missions or in agricultural work or something like that, and that intrigued me. So when I graduated from university, I was married at that time, and my wife and I volunteered for a program called Teachers Abroad program, and that was under the Mennonite Church, under Mennonite Central Committee. It wasn't a mission in terms of starting churches and stuff. It was teaching Nigerian students. We went to Nigeria, and so we were in the bush, 100 miles from the closest city, for 3 years, and that was a great experience. It happened to be during the Nigerian Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
You guys,
the Biafran War. That's it.
Yes. Back in 1966 to 69. So that was a really interesting time to be there. Even though we were in the bush, we got bombed and strafed, and sometimes the women were evacuated, and houses. Our compound was bombed, and houses on both sides of where I was living were strafed. I stood out in the front porch, and I saw this plane circling, and it dove right toward our house. It just skimmed the roof. And I just stood there and watched it. I was fascinated. I was too dumb to run. Oh, this is great. This is fascinating, So the entire time the war was going on, and then about a month before our 3 years were up, the war ended.
So you spoke about your mom earlier. Is this your mom right here?
Yes, it is. That's my mother. How about that? And that's my oldest granddaughter. Yes, my mom. My mom is not with us anymore. She left at about 98 years of age, a couple years ago.
I'm gonna rest in peace.
Yeah, she was a sweetheart, Again, just to comment about my mom and dad, of course, none of us is perfect, but I never heard them put anybody else down. I never heard them speak ill or derogatory of anybody. no matter what country or race or people, or no matter what they did. In fact, I even tried to bait my dad to make some kind of a comment one time, and he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. That's the kind of people they were. But mom was just a real sweetheart. Yeah. I always had this kind of dream for years. I'd love to go to Antarctica. But I thought, man, that's going to cost an arm and a leg. And I'm not a rich man, just a po' boy. So I was down in Ushuaia and I was walking around and I thought, well, I'll see if there may be some special deals. And this was early March, late February. And I saw a couple special deals, but they weren't very special. And, I'm a very intuitive person, and I just kind of watch for things to appear. I put out to the universe or to the creator, whichever name you want to use, to what it is I think I would enjoy. And then I just let it go. And then I just watch over time and wait. And sometimes things happen immediately. This one happened many years later. I saw a brochure then about that time on a corner of the street, and it had this expedition. It wasn't a cruise ship, it was an expedition ship going to Antarctica, leaving in 3 days. And I happened to be standing right by the agency that was booking these. And I walked in there and I sat down with this really cool guy, young guy. And I said, hey, I see this brochure. You got any room on this expedition ship? I figured, it was 1/4 of the price of what it ordinarily costs. Mm-hmm. So I figured, they're all taken. He said, yeah, we got 3 left. So anyway, I got on that and spent 15 days down there in Antarctica. And what an incredible, incredible trip. So when I came back from there, I came back to Ushuaia, and I had a flight to Buenos Aires and then to Bariloche, where I am now, which is in northern Patagonia. And things were, the virus was breaking loose then. In fact, when our expedition ship got back on land, no other expedition ships, no other cruise ships left. They shut down. So I was really, really fortunate.
Very.
Absolutely. The universe looks out for me all the time. I'm so blessed.
Okay.
So I got to, I was about to leave Ushuaia, and I had reserved a room, an Airbnb here in Bariloche. And the host sent me an email and said, Wayne, all the shops are closing here. The buses aren't running. The virus is going on. You may just want to go back to the States. She said, I won't charge you at all. I understand this is this pandemic thing. And I wrote back to her and I said, no, these colors don't run. I'm coming. So I flew to Buenos Aires, and then as I was waiting for my connecting flight to Bariloche, I got another email from her, and she said, Wayne, I just want to tell you, I don't know what's going to happen here. They are making people stay in their houses and their apartments. You may be stuck in an apartment, in my apartment. And I says, yeah, that's all right. I'll tell you again, these colors don't run. I'm coming. Wow. So I don't know, something in me just said, Wayne, you go.
You gotta go.
Yeah, gotta go. So I went, and she met me at the airport, took me to her apartment there that she rented, and yeah, we were required to stay in our apartments except to go to the pharmacy or to get groceries, and you had to have a special number to do that. So in a few, we then were talking on Zoom, because she lived about 6 kilometers outside of Bariloche. So we were getting to know, I love to get to know my hosts as I travel. It's really, really fascinating, and their culture and how they think and their food and all this kind of thing, family. So we were doing all that sort of thing. And she has her own business, kind of like, it's a security, health, safety business, kind of like OSHA in the United States.
Okay.
So after a while, she said, Wayne, she said, I can't charge you the going rate. I'm only going to charge you half. And then we were really getting to know each other a lot. And she'd come over once in a while. Really began to, I was very attracted to her, but I said, no, she's my host. You know, I keep those boundaries clear.
Okay.
You know? So I wasn't going to say anything, but I was really enjoying her.
So when did the boundaries get blurred?
Well, she blurred them. Okay. Yeah, she said, look, I'm having difficulty sleeping at night. I said, oh, you're stressed out? She said, no, I'm thinking about you.
Oh, wow. That was direct.
So I said, well, I have to admit, I find you attractive as well. So maybe we need to get together and talk. And then Argentina closed the borders. I couldn't get out if I wanted to. So she said, look, I have this 3-bedroom house. Incidentally, her husband had died in a motorcycle accident about 2 years before that.
Okay.
So she had this house, a 3-bedroom house, and she said, look, let's just make this your Airbnb. So you're not stuck there in an apartment, maybe needing food or whatever. I can make my way around okay. But I said, well, it sounded like a pretty good deal to me.
And you were slowly moving in.
I accepted. So I just went from there. And eventually we met in Mexico because I had to go back to the States for eye surgery. I did get out of the country on a special flight with the U.S. consulate, and then went to Mexico after that.
You mentioned getting to know people, getting to know the culture and food. What would you prefer? Is it what is it called? Street food or a fancy dining restaurant? What is it for you?
Yeah, the way I travel, it's not 5-star travel. I don't like that. I mean, I realize that really works for a lot of people. So I'm not being critical of it because they're at least getting out of their country, you know. And yeah, I see that. That looks like some guinea pig in Peru.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there with my granddaughter. I took her down there, so we had to try that. I had guinea pigs as pets when I was a kid. Okay. You know, so how do you eat your pet? I know. So, but I had to do it once. But I like to eat in the central markets or on the streets whenever possible. You know, I don't. Every now and then, I will go into, you know, a more upscale restaurant to try something special that may not be available on the street. But yeah, I like that pig. That's good, man. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, that's my way of eating. Pretty simple. I like that.
Nice. That's good to know. So talking about travel, because from what I've seen so far, you love being around and seeing places. What do you think makes a good trip for you? What makes a perfect trip for you?
Well, that could be a long answer. I think to get the most out of, to me, traveling is a way of waking up. Traveling is a way of learning to love. And it's a way of expanding your worldview and your vision. That's why I think everybody ought to get out of their own country at some point, if possible, for some travel. So, and I think this whole waking up process happens in stages. And I think for that to really happen, when we leave home to travel, We need to leave as much as possible all our belief system behind. And we need to leave behind all our conditioning. Now, it's easier said than done, but I think in order for us to really get the most out of life generally is we have to get rid of our conditioning. We have to get rid of our belief system because they are not ours. They were handed to us. They belong to somebody else. Exactly. And they may have been okay for them. But if you take that with you, and I know people who do, I mean, my parents traveled a lot, but they kind of took their religious belief system with them and tried to fit everything into that. And they still learn some, but it's limited in what you can learn. Yeah. So you got to get rid of that stuff if you're brave enough. I mean, it can be disorienting for a while because you move into kind of a no man's land.
No man's land. It's a new environment for you.
Yeah, you're right, Patrick. Exactly. So those things to me are very, very important. And then you don't particularly have a destination. It's like you're living in each moment as though it might be your last moment.
That's how you travel. I see.
Yeah.
So quick question, Wayne.
Yeah.
Are you keeping count of how many countries you've been to so far?
I haven't counted them for a while, but it's a little over 50, something like that.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
And what will you say is the best country you've visited that you love the most? Apart from where you are right now, though, because your wife is there. Yeah.
No, I can't. I get asked that question a lot, Patrick. I understand why it's asked, but I can't. Every country I've been to, I've fallen in love with. I've fallen in love with the people. They're all good people, and I've been in war zones, and I've been in all kinds of different places where my life was on the line, etc. But I think what you take into a country and what you give is what you get back. I mean, I think you guys know that. But there's something about every country that I just really, really enjoyed, Patrick. And I really was drawn to India and Asia and Africa. I mean, the lifestyle is very different there. It fits who I am better than Western civilization.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So I mean, India is, I lived in monasteries there, and I went with the fishermen out into the ocean all night and stuff like that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're learning a lot about the travel, the food, and we're about to tap into his art and other things of interest. But before we do that, let's hear from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
Your jubilation and celebration. Are you planning a wedding, celebrating an anniversary, or a graduation party? How about that crowd-pulling concert? Book D. Curtis now for an unforgettable experience. With D. Curtis as your master of ceremony, your event is guaranteed to leave an impression. Book now. Book D. Curtis at bookdcurtis2018gmail.com or call 804-714-7850. D. Curtis, your event is his business.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You are watching This Is Me. I am D. Curtis, your host, joined by my co-host, Patrick Talker. And today we have the amazing Wayne Yoder with us. Wayne, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be with you guys. You're fantastic. You make my day.
Great. You made our day. You're making our day here. So Wayne, let's pick up from, your mom. A couple of things that you mentioned. It seems like mom was into art. You probably didn't pick it up till you turned 40. She, self-taught piano. She started playing piano. And we were able to find out that, that you do play the sax. So talk to us about some of these skills that you have.
Well, they're not very well developed skills, Dee, but I love music of all kinds. And that's one of my paintings. Play the tenor sax. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to focus on it fully. When I was a kid, my dad wanted us to take music lessons, so I took lessons on a piano keyed accordion, for a while, and then at another point in my life, I took lessons on my own on an alto sax, and then eventually this tenor sax. I love the saxophone; it's just a beauty, and I love jazz and blues, and this is just incredible. So I love doing that. Yeah, that was in Afghanistan. I worked in Afghanistan with the military for 3 years till 2015, and then ended my contract. I was there under contract as a psychotherapist with the Department of Defense. So I took a sax over there with me, and I would play some dinner music now and then for the guys and gals. You know, it was kind of fun. Yeah. So that's kind of, you know, I think this is much more true to who I am than a lot of ways that I was brought up. Yeah, there's some of my buddies that were there helping out on the mission in Afghanistan.
So were you in the force, or you're just there helping out?
I was not. I did not join the military. Okay. I was there under a subcontract of the Department of Defense. But, you know, when you're there, I mean, I carried all the weapons and, you know, had lots of practice on all the weapons that we carried them, because you didn't know from one moment to the next if it was going to be your last breath. You just didn't know. Yeah. So we carried weapons for our own protection. But I was there, you know, working with these guys, trying to keep them from keeping a little sanity there. And also with the Afghan people who were working with us, and some NATO people as well. Yeah, it was very, very good, a very valuable experience. I come from a non-resistant background. The Mennonite people, they don't join the military generally. So that's great. Travels through India. That was my way of getting more in touch with my dark side, because I think if we don't understand our dark side, we don't know how to fully live our lives and love and joy and passion and so forth. Yeah, but that's a picture of my travels through India, just becoming part of the culture.
that looks like what they call hookah now. Is that what it is? Is that hookah back then?
That's a hookah, water pipe, that kind of thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
What year was that? Because that look a little bit different from the hookah we see nowadays.
Well, that would have been probably let's see. That probably would have been about 15 years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I spent about 15 years ago. I spent a year living and traveling in India. In fact, it may have been before that. I don't know. I lose track of time. About 15 years ago, I think. Yeah, because I was there in India a couple times. I lived there about a year and a half, something like that. Yeah.
So when you do travel, we know music is a passion. Is there? You play the sax. When you do travel, is it intentional? Do you intentionally look for sites where they're having music, where people are playing, or you just stumble upon them and decide to have a good time?
Yeah, some of both. I mean, I just I'm drawn to, whenever I hear music, I go see what's going on, whether it's, you know, drumming or whether it's a flute playing. And then I did. When I was in India, I love the sitar and their kind of classical Indian music, and Ravi Shankar, that kind of thing. So I would ask around when I was in some of the larger cities like Varanasi or Delhi or that kind of thing. Where can I hear some of this music? Where can I find out? And so I would do it that way as well. Yeah.
Okay, it's good to know. So talking about art, Wayne, there's a picture I'm hoping you letting us on. This picture right here.
I really like that painting. It just all came together for me. His name is Pops, and that's when I lived in Florida. And I had a pool there at my house, and I needed to have it refinished. So I asked around, looked around, and one of the pool people, they said, "Look, I know a guy who would do this for you. It's a family thing." And I said, "Okay, bring him around." So this is Pops. He was the kind of the dad of the family, and everybody worked for him. He sort of supervised. And I'd Pops and I sit around by the pool and talk. We'd drink tea or whatever, and, have a Coke, and just have a great time. And he told me some great stories. And I decided I wanted to do a painting of him and just give it to him as a gift. So he allowed me to take some photos. He didn't know what I was going to do with them, but I told him I would protect them, and so I chose a photo like this and did a painting and framed it and everything. And then when the pool was finished, I just gave it to him, and he was just a wonderful man. I just fell in love with him. Just a great guy. Yeah, he made a mark in my life.
Interesting. And that should be?
That is my older brother, Paul. He and I, that's a chart cast. It's oils. It's just black and white oils, basically. He's 2 years older than me. He's an ophthalmologist. He's retired now too. Good brother. We had some really good times together. Yeah, we go duck hunting together and we go camping together. Yeah, that's it. You guys are good. You guys are good, man. You pull them all up, man. You're better, a whole lot better than I am. I'm going to call you when I need something.
So when we notice travel, music is of interest, what else do you find interest in?
Writing, photography. I've written a book, but I just can't seem to decide that I want to publish it. It's called Buddha the Pest, and
What's the inspiration?
Well, it's based on my travels, actually,
Okay.
with the idea that traveling is really a spiritual thing. It's not just to travel and get drunk and things like that. Some people enjoy that.
That's also not bad, though.
That doesn't work for me. But I will say, in the Amazon, I did ayahuasca and that kind of thing. I've done some mushrooms, but but they were always done as kind of a spiritual part of my journey. A ceremonial thing, was never recreational. I think those are sacred substances. So yeah, I wrote that book. And it is about my travels. When I took my first around the world trip 25 years ago, I was 50 years old then, and I kept a journal. And so I put some things together, and it's like it's not just a reporting of places I've been, but it's experiences I've had, people I've met, and how Buddha, so to speak, or you could say that Christ is always there bugging you. You go around a corner and you have to face yourself. Your prejudices, your ideas, your judgments, all this kind of thing. So it's more about that, as well as just really interesting stories about people along the way and the beautiful influences that they are.
So when the next question, the next session we're going to go to is the rapid fire questions. Short, quick answer. If you need to elaborate, that's okay. You travel a lot, obviously. What are the first three things you're putting in your bag for the next trip?
It's probably the first three things I take out of my bag. So I can just carry with me on my pack and put it in the airplane. So, I don't know. I just put a pair of jeans, a couple of shirts, toothbrush, that kind of thing. That's basically it. I
Wow.
take
So
minimal. Sorry.
clothes and toothbrush. What's the last one?
Well, clothes, toothbrush. Oh, I take a pet rock of my daughter. She gave me in the kindergarten. Now she's 50 years old. She gave me a pet rock, like a beetle about this big around, and she painted
Wow.
it, gave it to me in the kindergarten, and I carry it with me everywhere around the world. That's the other thing. It always goes. It always goes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Interesting.
So window seat or aisle when you're traveling?
Aisle seats.
Really?
Because, yeah. I like to be able. I got longer legs, and I don't like to be cramped back in the corner and have to crawl over people and get up and stretch. I like the aisle seats. I can get up. I can move around. I can stretch. That kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If everybody is bound to get married, what would be the ideal age for marriage?
I think it has more to do, when you say age rather than a physical age, it has more to do with an emotional and mental age. And
Okay.
that would exclude some people from ever getting married.
No matter how old they are, right?
Yeah. But that's a hard one to answer, because I think we get married when we're meant to get married, because it's a journey. And relationships are one of the best ways in this existence that wake us up to the truth of who we are. And so some of us, I got married at 21, very young, so my friends wait till they're 30, so I think the important thing is to learn from each moment, each relationship about love, to learn to love beyond love. And sometimes that means no matter what age you are when you get married, sometimes that means the marriage dissolves. Sometimes it doesn't, but I'm not here to judge that.
Okay. Horror movie or comedy movie?
Say that again, D.
Horror movie or comedy?
Oh, comedy. I don't like horror movies.
Just like me. Can't stand it.
No, I don't like it.
So is tomato a fruit or vegetable?
Man, you just eat it. I don't care if it's a fruit or a vegetable, brother.
No, just eat it.
Eat it and stop thinking.
It was meant to be eaten.
Right. Just eat that sucker.
That's right. What's the most embarrassing store will you be found shopping in?
I'm too old to get embarrassed anymore, D. I'm sorry.
Anything goes.
Like maybe when I was 20 or something, or 25 or something like that. I think it would have been embarrassing or humiliating, maybe, to be in a porn shop or something like that. That's a no-go for me. I don't enjoy it or appreciate it, that kind of thing, and it's not my values. So if some of my wonderful friends saw me in a porn shop, I think that would be a little embarrassing. Yeah.
I can see how that can be. Well, Wayne, thank you for honoring our invitation. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, getting to know your experiences, and wish we could have you around even more. You have any last words for us or our audience?
Well, I would just say live life fully. Always be inquisitive and curious. Don't ever give that up, and never stop being a child. Let that child out, play in the mud puddles, do stupid stuff, and just laugh a lot, because there's not one shred of scientific evidence that life is meant to be serious.
Now, before we let you go, Rafi, I just have one little question.
Sure.
You've lived an amazing, interesting life, and you've seen the world from different perspectives. Now, what is Wayne's guilty pleasure?
What is Wayne's
Guilty pleasure.
guilty pleasure? I don't have any guilt. I'm too old. Seriously. I do not feel guilty about anything I do, but I try to live responsibly too. I mean, responsibly with joy and, taking risk. I mean, not in a way that hurts anybody. But outside of that, I don't have guilt. I just don't. Not anymore. I grew up with a lot of it, but I'm done with that. Yeah, I just love in life.
So let's say you have a magic wand. What is one thing you would change in the world today?
Well, I would answer that in a couple of ways, I guess. The one thing I would change, if I could, is that everyone would realize that we're all connected, and that when we look into the other person's eyes, we're looking into our own eyes. We're looking into ourself, and what we think and feel about that person is a reflection of what we think and feel of ourselves. To realize that that person we're looking at is my brother, my sister, and they're welcome in my home. I would like to see the world come together like that. But then, what would be the purpose of the world?
Yeah, what's worse though?
Different opinions, different views. All right. Before we say I'll go back, Wayne, you're talking about your book, right? Yeah. What would be that one motivation, or what would be that thing that would actually push you, or motivate you for you to actually write this book and release this book?
Well, I don't have the tools to publish it. I really, what I would need is to consult with somebody who knew what they were doing about publishing books or ways of doing that, to consult with them and have them assist me in that process. That's what I would need. If I had somebody came along and said, "Look, Wayne, I think I can help you with this. Let's talk," I'd say, "Let's talk." Yeah.
Awesome.
Good to know.
If you're out there and you're watching this episode, let's talk. Obviously, if you heard a lot about his life, traveled over 50 countries and stuff like that, definitely there's a lot, I think he has to share it, and the world needs to hear. So if you have the way of doing it, please contact us, and we'll be glad to link you up with Wayne so we can read this book, because I want to know what is in that head.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Yep.
It's been my pleasure, you guys, to talk with you. Thank you for taking the time and for having enough confidence in my life and so forth to even want to talk about these things. I just wish you guys the best in what you're doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging around with us. We'll see you on the next episode. This is your boy, D. Curtis. And that was Wayne.
Wayne, the last word, Wayne?
Well, just every now and then, put that nose on and look in the mirror, and your day will go better.
Thank you so much.
If you love you guys, thank you so much. It's great talking with you.
Hey, wait, before you leave, wait a minute. Can you please subscribe? Hit the subscribe button and share it with somebody, please. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
No one else but me. Oh yeah, this is me. This is me. Yeah. Get to know who I am from me, 'cause this is me. Do you wanna know?
So who would you like to see next on This Is Me?
Well, you might be able to connect with a guy I know whose name is Jeff Salz, S-A-L-Z. He's lived a fascinating life. He's living in Ecuador. He and his wife are living there. But he spent many years here in Argentina as a rock climber.
Okay.
Interesting.
And has climbed the highest peaks here, and and Mount Fitzroy is the prize. He didn't quite make it to the top of that one. 2 of his buddies were killed in that foray. But he has he's been a professional speaker as well, inspirational speaker. He's written the book The Way of Adventure. Fascinating. He would be an interesting person.